Brian Yoder says, have you heard anything about the upcoming movie First Man about Neil Armstrong? Do you have any thought on what would make it good or bad movie and your predictions about whether it will hit or flop? I don't know how you tell the story of Neil Armstrong in a social justice way, but they will figure it out. This reminds me of this beautiful, perfect saying that engineers have, and this is basically our life in America in the second decade of the 21st century. You can make something idiot-proof, and then they'll just invent a better idiot. And that's it, you know. If you ever had an American story about American values, Neil Armstrong, who's one of my 3 heroes in my life, genuine hero of mine. He's the living example of virtually every quality I admire. But they could find some way, I'm sure, to screw that up. It'll be a tough challenge, though. I mean, Ron Howard is a pretty left-wing guy, but Ron Howard didn't screw up Apollo 13, and to be honest with you, neither did Steven Spielberg screw up Lincoln. I was quite shocked to see the factual reality of Lincoln and not Stanton. Don't tell me. I'm not going to look. I didn't know this. I know this. Seward, his Secretary of State, William Seward, sitting in a carriage, riding along, talking about how many Republican votes they need in order to free the slaves and how many Democrats are going to oppose them. I was quite shocked to hear, oh my God, you actually mentioned the actual truth for once. I don't know. I tend to find biographies not to be particularly compelling. Oh, we have a child with us in the... yeah, if I can, I will. Let me see. There's a child has arrived, undoubtedly. Some kind of left-winger. So let's see what we can do about that. There's a way somehow. Hang on. Something happened. Let's just see if it's going on. I'll refresh this page here. Just when adults are having a serious conversation, you can always tell that this does not have the kind of controls it used to have. Probably because, oh, hang on. No, it's going to be a little tougher. I'm glad he's here, though. I really am. Because for those of you watching on YouTube, somebody in the live comments stream is just typing in, like, mashing the keys down, just random letters, just in order to get the kind of attention you would get if you walked into a cocktail party of intelligent, well-educated, civilized, very smart adults, and then just basically took down your pants and started to urinate in the middle of the room. That would get people's attention too. Yeah, you, Jay, I'm talking to you. Don't you find it? Aren't you just a little embarrassed? Oh, you're probably not capable of being embarrassed. That all you've got is the ability to come in here and just mash on keys, that your entire leftist philosophy is so completely indefensible that all you can do now is just, just bash the keys. You're like those people that try to shout people down, and by the way, I'd have more respect for people. I don't have any respect for them, but if somebody was trying to shout a conservative down with a liberal argument, it would still be appalling and all of that. But that's not even what they do. They chant things like 3-year-olds, No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. For 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. That's it. That's all they got. And they go as loud as they can. Glad you dropped in, Jay. You are. I really do wonder about people like you. I really do. I just. I sometimes I just can't get over. Yeah, don't get me started. I just can't get over. Here's the thing. Guys like Jay are humiliating for me. And the reason I find them humiliating, personally humiliating, is because I deserve much better opponents than the ones I get. I am capable of beating much, much better people than I meet on the left. I haven't met anybody on the left that could make a coherent argument enough for me to be able to basically stop and say, let me think about that for a second. Honestly, I deserve much better than this. I'm over-prepared. I could have given up 15 years of study and still been able to out-argue people like this. And you know what this also reminds me of, folks? It's like, what this thing with Jay, because like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, somebody just came in there and just started bashing keys. But this is exactly the kind of person that takes out their keys and carves their initials into the numerals on a gas pump. You go to get some gas, and at least in California, and on the little display, the plastic in front of the LCD display, somebody's carved in EJT or maybe just J or something. And it's so pathetic that it's almost enough to make me feel sorry for them. The sense that people like this guy must be so filled with the sense that they're not here, that there's really nothing to them, that they don't really exist, that they have to go looking for this kind of thing. This is what trolls do, Trolls go into a room and say things they know it's going to get people to disagree with or disrupt things in order to get attention because their mom and dad didn't like them very much. And now you know why. It's just a very, very tragic thing. And this is why so many of these college social justice warriors have this same attitude that we're just gonna disrupt everything. We're not going to provide any kind of an argument. We're just going to make sure that no one gets to hear something I disagree with. And if we have to shout at the top of our lungs or put our fingers in our ears, that's what we'll do. And the transparency of it is just so striking to adults. Adults look at this and just, they're not angry. They're not amused. They are somewhat annoyed in the same way that I'd be annoyed because I'd have to have my carpets cleaned if you somehow snuck into a party that adults were having and decided to, just pee all over the floor, Jay. I mean, you have caused some inconvenience. There's no question about that. But it's enough to make people just say, wow. Wow. I hope that on some point in your life you do find a way to get some sort of recognition for your life, but I think you'll find that you're not going about it the right way, and all you're doing is lowering people's already low opinion of you, and you might want to give that one some thought. Anyway, back to business. So, Brian, I'd love to. I was just saying that that biographies, as a general rule, don't really work very well unless you're dealing with a relatively short period of time. Apollo 13 was dealing with the mission and a little bit, a year ahead of it, maybe right at the beginning, just for a few moments. Armstrong's career. Well, I mean, you could make the case that Armstrong's career consisted of Apollo 11, but that would just not be true. I mean, Armstrong performed so incredibly on the Gemini mission. I think about Armstrong on the Gemini mission with the runaway thruster, and he's in a capsule that's spinning at 60 RPM, and that's fast. And then he has to eject from the lunar landing simulator, and he parachutes down into his own fireball, and the rest of the guys come into work to see what happened, and there's Neil sitting there with his clean white engineer shirt and his little clip-on tie, and he's doing some work, and he's just, it's not that he's has no emotions. It's just that he's so mentally disciplined. And again, my favorite story about Apollo 11, which had a lot more problems than we originally thought, watching the show. One of the problems was, as they're on the moon and they're bringing in their suits, some of their samples, somebody who designed the lunar module did not put a metal protector over the button that you have to push in order to launch the upper stage of the LEM and get back up into lunar orbit, meet the command module, and then go back home again. So these two guys are getting ready to leave the moon, and they look down, and there's this big hole where this button should be, and they try to see if they can make contact with it, and they can't. And the thing I love the most is that when this story was told many years later, some journalist somehow, some touchy-feely journalist said to Buzz Aldrin in an interview, "So when you realized that button was broken, did you and Neil just kind of sit down and have a conversation about what your last words would be, about what you would say, as your last words on the moon before you died of lack of oxygen?" And Aldrin looks at her like she's just covered in feathers, as if it's some kind of a strange bird that just walked out of the next room, like an ostrich with an ostrich with think of an elephant's trunk attached. And she said, were you thinking about your last words? And he looks at her and says, "No, we were thinking about how the hell we're going to fix this button." Hey, guys, just pretend he's not there. Just no more references to him. He really is I just want to say the last thing about this. I've often wanted to meet people like this because I have a very good feeling. I know what they look like and I know what they think. But in any event, we can read the comments without what's his name doing what he's doing. So I hope they make a movie about it, Brian. But I think the story of Apollo 11 needs to be told, and especially the part about how they're heading down to the lunar surface, and they'd had a kind of a hard, no decision policy. If we get below, I don't know if it was 60 seconds of fuel, something like that, or 30 seconds, we're aborting. If we get to 60 seconds of fuel, it's an automatic abort. And they're on their way down there for the moon landing, and he gets to the 60 seconds remaining part, and he's like, it's Neil, we just overshot. We got to go. We got to go back up. No, we are not going back up. So he got, I don't know. I remember, somebody might know how much fuel was left in the LEM when they landed. I think they calculated 16 seconds maybe of fuel left. And since the LEM lunar module, not many people know this, but the lunar module is constructed in such a way that if you were to put an actual lunar module, not the ones you see in museums, the actual ones that they flew, if you put them on the ground, they'll collapse because their legs are so light and everything about it is so light that the LEM will not support its own weight on Earth gravity. The only way the LEM lands on those legs is in the 1/6 gravity you get on the moon. So, there's a lot of story there and a lot of great stuff. One last thing, and this, when I recall the Apollo 11 mission, I'm one of those people lucky enough to have seen the Apollo 11 mission in real time. But when I look back on it and I remember the video and I look at the pictures that were taken, it didn't occur to me until after I saw this. One of the most knock the wind out of you graphics or illustrations that I've ever seen was one that put the lunar module, real scale lunar module, down on the pitcher's mound on a standard Major League Baseball diamond. And the four legs cover the diamond, and all of the EVA activities, all of the exploring they did on Apollo 11 was in the infield. They were inside the infield marker. The entire Apollo 11 mission took place in an area inside the line from home to first to second to third and back home again, with the LEM taking a big hunk of space in the middle, with one exception where Neil went about halfway into right field, about halfway. And then, boom, that's it. So I hope somebody tells these stories. They certainly need to be told. Most people, I'm sure, given the rapid dumbing down of this country, I'm sure a lot of people think that didn't happen. By the way, if you really want to see something cool, look up Apollo landing sites from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO. And you will see from a probe we have in orbit around the moon right now, you will see every one of the Apollo landing sites. And they just recently did a lower pass. They did a peri, not a perigee. Ben, just leave him alone. Don't engage him. Just pretend he's not there, because he's not. Okay, really, seriously, just don't do it. I don't want to see anybody doing it. I don't want to see anybody talking. Just ignore the idiot. Just don't engage him. Period. He's not worthy of anything. I'm serious as I can be now. I mean it. Don't do it. Now, that's basically the story of First Man, I guess. So moving on.